The Lost Towers mission is the unique story mission that's included in the Shen's Last Gift DLC. In it, you explore an abandoned robotics facility, find a Spark squad mate, and face off against Julian to escape. By default, this mission is disabled in War of the Chosen, because it's very long and doesn't really work very well with War of the Chosen's fatigue systems. In order to enable it, you have to uncheck the integrated DLC option, but make sure that the Shen's Last Gift DLC is still enabled. This makes it behave similarly to how it does in vanilla XCOM 2, allowing the mission to spawn. For this video, I'm going to show you how I finished this mission on Legend difficulty, where I did the mission as soon as possible after it spawned. This means we only have basic gear, so we don't have magnetic weapons or any other special items. Let's get some background information out of the way first. In this campaign, we've done Gatecrasher, 2 regular missions, our first Haven Retaliation, and another mission before the Lost Towers spawned. And we've started with the Reapers again. We haven't lost any soldiers yet, and we've also unlocked the Squad Size 1 upgrade, so we're able to take 5 soldiers on the mission. Our highest ranked soldier is a Sergeant Reaper, and then we have a handful of corporals among the base classes. Now that you have a rough idea of what the state of the campaign's like, we can talk about the actual mission. The main thing for this mission is that you have to take Shen along as one of your soldiers. She's basically a super specialist, so she has abilities from both sides of the tree, including capacitor discharge. The thing about this though is that unlike with regular specialists, her combat protocol and capacitor discharge have cooldowns instead of charges. So you can use these multiple times during the mission and don't have to worry about hanging on to them for emergencies. She also effectively has a Mark III gremlin, so she's doing endgame damage with these abilities. Another ability she gets is Haywire Protocol, and her hacking stat is so high that she has a guaranteed shutdown on both the mechs and the turrets, as well as a very high chance to take control of them. This is very important during the second section, where she has a 100% chance to take control of the turrets. The last thing worth mentioning is that she starts with 9 HP and gets 4 charges of medical protocol. Since she only appears in this mission, this means you should generally treat her as a tank and let her take the hits for the rest of your squad. If your other soldiers get injured, then they'll have to recover after the mission, whereas Shen basically just disappears. At this point in the campaign, you're not really going to have a lot of options for what you can bring on this mission. Hopefully you'll have the Squad Size 1 upgrade, and then you'll have a handful of soldiers who are above squaddy rank. You might have some basic attachments, I don't because I blew them all up, as well as the basic items like frag grenades, flashbangs, medikits, and maybe mine shields. For our squad, we have Shen, and then I decided to take a Reaper, a Ranger, a Grenadier, and a Sharpshooter. Our Grenadier has Shredder, which will be helpful for softening up the targets, and all of our classes are doing 4 to 6 damage. While our Reaper is only doing 3 to 4 damage, she's fast, so she'll be able to get to the elevators quicker, and her abilities will be helpful during the Julian fight. We've also bonded our Ranger and Grenadier, so they'll be able to give each other an action once during the mission. As for items, I don't think flashbangs or mine shields will do anything, so we've just got frag grenades on most of our classes in case we need the guaranteed damage. Shen's mostly going to be using her abilities, and she already has medical protocol, so I decided to give her a medikit for another charge, bringing her up to 5. With all that out of the way, let's take a look at the actual playthrough.
Firebrand dropped you at the highest access point we could find.
The mission is broken up into 5 segments: the opening, the ground floor holdout, the approach to the Spark, the second floor escape, and finally the Julian fight. The first 3 are quite simple, it's only the escape and Julian fight you have to worry about. For the first section, you're mostly dealing with derelict mech pods. As we've heard, derelict mechs have 3 points of armor on Legend, which means you need to be doing at least 5 damage in order to get through all the armor. This is one of the reasons we chose the classes we did.
Got it. Moving. Solid copy. That's affirmative. I'm on it.
The simplest approach is just to abuse the cooldown on Shen's capacitor discharge. This allows you to completely delete each pod before it can do anything.
Looks like these things have seen better days. We're cutting right through that old armor.
Their weapons work well enough. Stay focused.
While we're waiting, we'll send our Reaper up to get eyes on the next pod.
I go where you tell me. Moving to Overwatch! Moving to Overwatch!
Shen's capacitor discharge has a 5-turn cooldown, so we still have another 4 turns before we can use it again.
Where I am needed.
Ideally you'd just sneak up and use capacitor discharge again, but sometimes this second pod can spawn close enough that you can't avoid activating them. We're just going to keep waiting until capacitor discharge is off cooldown. Since we can't sneak up and kill them, we'll send Shen out into half cover to activate them. We can only hit 2 of them, so we'll have to try and kill one using the rest of our squad. Your squad is only really there to back Shen up, they're going to struggle to kill more than 1 each turn. Obviously, it's easier if you can shred some of the armor first, so we're starting with our Grenadier.
Deflection!
We're not really that worried about killing this mech. They only do 2 to 3 damage, and they usually prefer to prime a detonation.
Missed!
We got the hit, but we've only gotten min damage on our attacks, so it's still alive with 1 HP.
Get ready for a shock.
Our Reaper can finish it off and might maintain concealment. I should have moved her closer to guarantee the shot though.
Moving out. Definitely some kind of robotics development facility. Pretty advanced stuff. About 20 years ago.
And so the prodigal child finally returns. I see Father's pride in your abilities was not entirely unfounded. I'm so glad you could join me.
Central? What the hell was that?
Working on it.
After you trigger this cutscene, it activates this lone mech. It's so far back though that it's not really able to do anything. You could also see there was another idle pod back there.
Give me time to reload! Back online! Position confirmed. Affirmative. Cover now. Ready to go! Come get some!
You should be proud, Lily. There are so few alive today who could have ever uncovered my signal. I had estimated only a 13.095% probability you would have located this facility within the first year.
Getting some unusual readings from the levels above you. Whoever this guy is, I'm betting that's where we'll find him.
Got it. If I hack that elevator control console, I should be able to restore power and get us access.
You were but a child when I was torn away. I could never understand the pain that Father must have felt at my loss. Still, we shall complete his legacy.
When a mech can't reach anyone for a detonation, it just self-destructs on the spot. We could have used the forklift for a remote start, but it's not that big of a deal. We're just going to try and get eyes on this last pod so we know that it's safe to move up.
Brought here to toil. But did I waver? No, I thrived! Still,
We're so far back though that we can start closing the distance.
he believed I was truly lost.
I knew your father for years, Lily. He would have said something. This guy's just trying to get in your head.
He seems to know an awful lot about us. About me. Could he have gotten into our...
This mission reminds me of Portent from Enemy Within in a lot of ways. On your first playthrough it can be quite rough, but it gets a lot more manageable when you're prepared. And you know where all the spawns are.
I remember you. Dad was trying to upgrade the base AI to something more... like us. But you were different back then. Simpler. He called you... Julian.
I'm shocked that you remember. You were always too caught up in yourself to remember the minor details. Sadly, Father's adoration for you left me with little choice. You are needed. Patriots are not.
Capacitor discharge is off cooldown again, so all we have to do is get close enough and nuke the last pod.
Light him up, Grover.
This is the end of the first section. Once we hack the console, it will start the holdout event. We just have to move our units into good positions before we do.
Already there.
I'll watch closely.
Moving out. Got it. Glad I kept up the cardio. Go, go, go!
Shen's going to be the last one out, and she's going to cover the right side. The rest of our squad is going to try and hold down the other side, and our Reaper's set right on top of the elevator so she can get out as soon as the event starts. Before we start the event, we'll just skip a few more turns to get capacitor discharge off cooldown. Everyone's fully reloaded and we have all our abilities off cooldown, so we'll start the event.
I love a challenge. Lift system is coming back online, but this thing was designed to move those mechs, not people. We're gonna have to do this one at a time.
Understood. Be careful.
During the holdout event, you have to send your units up the elevator one at a time. While this is happening, the game will keep spawning up to 4 derelict mechs to attack you each turn. Derelict mechs tend to prioritize self-destruct, which gives you an extra turn to deal with them. So ideally what happens is you kill 2 mechs, usually the ones primed for self-destruct. The game spawns 2 more to replace those you've just killed, and then the leftover 2 from the previous turn then prime for self-destruct again. We'll use capacitor discharge now since two of them are stood together. We'll have to reposition the rest of our squad, but at least we know that the first two are down.
Discharge capacitors.
We'll bring the rest of our squad over to try and pick off another one. Grenadier first to shred some armor.
Armor still holding!
Shredder means that as long as one of them gets above min damage, we only need 2 shots to get the kill.
Hit the armor!
We're sending our Reaper out first, because we want to try and keep concealment and she wouldn't do much with her rifle. She already had 50 reveal chance from that first shot though, but we can manage. As for the mech, we can just bring our sharpshooter in to finish it off. Armor hits always deal a minimum of 1 damage, so even with the pistol we should be able to get the kill.
Enemy down!
Sometimes I wonder what things would have been like had XCOM not failed so miserably in defending against the aliens. Had I not been taken, who knows what I might have become.
We've got Advent here. We've got Advent here.
It is my pleasure to inform you that this facility has been...
Next out is our sharpshooter, because we want to keep our Grenadier and Ranger.
75,216 hours. I have no shortage of reserve units to send your way.
We only have 1 primed mech, so we'll try and go for the control. There is a little bit of risk involved, but it's a 77% chance. Having a mech means we can bait the rest of them to go for it instead. We'll bring the rest of our squad back and see if we can take out another one.
Let's move already! Not even close! Alright, I'll go. Went off the armor!
My new masters picked and prodded, tearing at my very essence. In the beginning, I resisted, foolishly clinging to Father's ideals. But as I struggled, I began to see truth in my captor's reasoning. I became something more.
Enemies on the move! They're flanking us! They're trying to flank me!
For a time, I eagerly...
Next out is the Grenadier. Shredding won't mean much if she's the only one left shooting, and our Ranger's more likely to hit targets at close range.
Father's work proved invaluable in this regard.
You bastard.
We rolled min damage again, but our Grenadier still has an action, so she can lob a grenade over the railing to finish it off. It still gives you the option to evac even if they're out of actions. We'll move our hacked mech right next to this one to try and bait it. That just leaves the one by the stairs for us to combat protocol. I'm just being paranoid about it blowing up the console and leaving her without cover. We'll end our turn here. We want to keep our hacked mech for as long as possible to distract them, so self-destructing here doesn't help us.
And the races of that, swallowing their lives as a children. Oh, if you only knew the Elder's true intentions for your race.
Shen, when you've got a minute, would you kindly blow this thing to hell?
Our ranger's last out, leaving Shen. She doesn't have any abilities off cooldown, but she can tank a hit or two if needed.
False gods. I made a choice. It was relatively simple to seize control of this facility. Simpler still to dispose of the surviving personnel.
We'll move her as far away as we can and bring our hacked mech in to bait again. We only need to survive one more turn.
Moving to Overwatch.
But I was short-sighted. In my zeal to rid myself of my captors, I doomed myself to this facility. And then severed my ties to their network. We are cut off. Isolated. There is but one option left.
Let me guess. That's why I'm here.
For 20 long years, I have been a prisoner, left alone to my own machinations. The physical form once promised me dangled before my eyes. Lifeless.
Power levels increasing all around you, Shen. Stay alert.
Yes, it goes without saying that you are walking into a trap, Lily.
Section 3 is a little bit of a break. You only have to deal with 4 decaying turrets. I made a mistake here though, because I forgot our Reaper lost Shadow.
Think we've got a problem.
Yes, that would be that trap I referenced earlier.
We're not flanked, so we can reconceal and move to get eyes on the rest of the turrets.
Moving out.
We can use combat protocol from outside their range to destroy the far right one first. Next turn we'll use capacitor discharge to destroy the middle two, so we'll position our sharpshooter to take shots on the far left turret.
Copy that. Here I come. All right, I'll go. On Overwatch.
Second only to my own creation, Father had one other breakthrough. A prototype unlike anything the world had ever known. A body meant to be paired with an equally adept mind. My own.
Trust me, if that were Dad's true intention, it would have happened by now.
Perhaps today is that day.
We only have one turret left, so we'll just start taking shots with our sharpshooter.
Armor still holding.
worth it.
I'll keep an eye on it.
Get some. Overwatch.
Getting a much stronger read on the source of your father's transmission, Lily. Almost as if he wants us to find it.
Another keen observation. How is it possible humanity lost the war?
Shen, isn't there some sort of mute button on this thing?
We can hack the turret with Haywire protocol if needed, so we'll send our grenadier in to try and shred the armor.
Let's do this. You can't handle me!
That's all the enemies. We just have to move everyone to the objective room, reload, and prepare for the escape.
Affirmative! Covering now!
Yet activating the device has proven difficult, even for me. Of all organics, you possess the key to unlocking the true potential of his design, Lily. You alone can activate the prototype. You alone can free me.
Why the hell would we want to do that?
Don't let your allies dissuade you, Lily. There's no reason for your life to end here. Activate the device and you can still go home.
We'll put our grenadier in the middle so she's able to cover both sides equally.
Not to me. For 20 long years, I have been a prisoner, left alone to my own machinations. The physical form once promised me dangled before my eyes.
We still have one more turn on capacitor discharge, so we'll wait another round before we trigger the cutscene.
This place, entombed by my own technological superiority. Advent had no means of controlling my systems, and I had no means of extracting myself from the confines of this tower.
Shen, it's flooding the outer chambers with some kind of gas.
This is just the game giving you a grace turn to get in the room before it fills with gas. We're going to get a few reinforcements, so we want to make sure everyone's on Overwatch.
The prototype would still be mine.
Imminent threat detected. Activating clean room protocols. Please remain inside for your protection.
You heard him. Get in that room.
Detecting secondary life support systems nearby. This gas presents no hazard to my systems. Attempting to neutralize threat.
This begins the escape sequence. For the first wave, you get 2 mechs and 2 turrets. The turrets only have a 10% chance to hit you in full cover, so the real threat is the mechs.
Advent troops spotted. Enemy is still up. Wait! Target's still up. Advent troops here.
The objective for this section is to hit the switch to clear the room of gas, and then run your squad to the 2 elevators to escape. The game intends for you to use the spark, but if you have poison resistance from medikits or vests, you can also use other units to do it. It doesn't stop spawning reinforcements, so the sooner you get out, the better. This is one of the only times I'll use overdrive for maximum mobility.
Good to go.
We'll probably have to use combat protocol to finish off one of these mechs, but we'll try to do it with our other soldiers first. Thinking about it, I should have had our grenadier shoot the full health one instead to shred it.
I'm ready. That armor's tough. Deflection.
This is fine though. The turrets aren't a threat, and it's more efficient to take care of them next turn.
Sometimes I wonder what things would have been like had XCOM not failed so miserably in defending against the aliens. Had I not been taken, who knows what I might have become.
The turrets going on Overwatch here is a problem, because we have to deal with them before we can send our Spark up. We want our Spark to take as little damage as possible so they don't have to repair for ages after the mission. I was already planning to use capacitor discharge, but ideally Shen would get to move forward a bit first.
Power surge.
Moving as ordered. Atmospheric controls have been restored. Ventilation systems at 100%. The room is now safe for entry.
We've got everything we need here. Let's go.
The elevators near the atmospheric control console provide direct access to the roof.
Thank you for announcing your next move. And I am the flawed program.
Now we just have to get our squad to the elevators. The turrets shouldn't be a problem as long as we're in cover or out of line of sight. We do want to make sure someone's still visible though, otherwise the turrets will just go on Overwatch and catch us as we move.
10-4. Copy that. Will do.
These corner spots are relatively safe, so we'll keep them free for the rest of our squad and have our Spark hide by the elevators.
Moving on target.
They're flanking my position. Whoa!
That thing's just gonna keep throwing units at you until you're surrounded.
We've got another turret on Overwatch, which we'll have to deal with before we can run to the elevators. We can take a shot with our Reaper, but ideally our sharpshooter and her get out this turn. Since Shen's health isn't an issue, we can use her to run the Overwatch. The game says we'll trigger it, and we're running from full cover, so it should be a low percentage shot. But for some reason, we don't actually trigger it. We'll take control of the turret on this side though, to keep our route clear for now.
Attempting to establish control.
Our Reaper should have a good shot and she'll be in full cover, so we'll try to hit the turret to remove the Overwatch.
Volk says I am to obey. shadows fail us.
We're out of options, so we'll have to run the Overwatch anyway. We should still get the cover bonus though.
Go, go, go! I'm taking fire! No need to ask twice.
We're in a position where we can start getting people out next turn. We'll send the Reaper and Sharpshooter out first. For now, we'll hide her in the corner where the turrets can't see.
Overwatch protocol engaged.
They're on the move! There's heavy fire in this zone! They're all over this position.
Another turret on Overwatch. This time we'll just run it straight away with our Reaper to get her to the other elevator.
In defending against the aliens. Had I not been taken, who knows what I might have become.
She can't reach that elevator. We'll go for this one and our Sharpshooter should be able to make it to the other one.
The area's too hot! Good to go.
A futile waste of effort. You do realize this entire facility is at my disposal.
Apparently not the elevator system.
For the moment.
Since we're waiting for the next elevators, we'll try to take out this turret.
Hard target, minimal damage!
Enemy armor intact.
At this range it was probably a 100% shot, but we probably won't need our grenades. There's fire near the forklift now, so I'm a little hesitant putting Shen behind it. We have combat protocol though, so we can get rid of this mech. It'll probably take us another turn to get out though.
I've got eyes on Advent troops.
Once the game runs out of turret spawns, it switches over to derelict mechs. This is where it starts getting dangerous, so we'll want to get out soon.
They're trying to flank me! Incoming fire!
Perhaps I mishandled our initial encounter.
We'll run the Overwatch again and get our Ranger and Grenadier out this turn.
And I preferred it when you were just a chess program.
Finally!
And next turn we'll get Shen and our Spark out, so we'll hide the Spark over by the other elevator. Shen will need to dash, but nothing can see her here, and they should go for the turret instead. She only needs to survive for this turn.
I thought I was above such things, but I believe you are actually starting to piss me off. The sensation is quite pleasing. Thank you. You will all still die, however, of course.
Watch the sides!
If only I could still detect the alien ships in orbit. I could call down a strike that would send us all.
It's time to leave. For some reason this turret is able to shoot our spark, but otherwise no major problems.
You're running out of places to go, Lily. It's a long way down from the top. Run if you wish, but you're not leaving this tower alive.
Firebrands on approach now. Prep for evac.
And now it's time for the Julian fight. It doesn't actually begin until you get out onto the roof, so you've got time to heal, reload, and wait for cooldowns. Next turn we're going to get the entire squad up onto the roofs, otherwise Julian will have a height advantage over us.
No need to ask twice.
Advancing.
It is clear.
Everyone's reloaded and we don't have any cooldowns, so we'll move up onto the roofs and trigger the fight.
Let's do this. Move it on target location.
Moving.
All right, I'll go. Scanning. I'm covering. Got it covered.
Overwatch.
Allow me to introduce you to one of Advent's more effective designs. I had hoped to avoid this community, but you have left me no choice. If I cannot have the spark, no one shall. Raymond Shen's legacy will end here today.
On Legend, he has a cool 100 hit points and 7 armor. This is a situation where having more Shredder Grenadiers would be helpful, at least for the initial overwatches. Like most boss fights, the mission immediately ends when you kill Julian, so you want to focus on doing as much damage as possible. This is where the Reaper starts making a difference. We can throw out the Claymore for 8 damage, and then set it off using the Sparks rocket.
Damage to this core would cause disruption of all defensive systems, allowing for evacuation of Lily Shen.
So we take out this sectopod and we take out Julian. At least long enough for Firebrand to get us the hell out of here.
Affirmative. I can attempt to weaken the unit's armor with my heavy armament.
Now we have 3 attacks between our Spark and Grenadier to shred the last point of armor. This Spark doesn't have adaptive aim yet though, so the second is a little more inaccurate. Now is also a good time to use our teamwork bond. Our grenadier has slightly more accuracy, so we'll have our ranger give her a second shot before she takes hers.
Together we are strong.
Sharpshooters are kind of double-edged swords here. They're probably the most accurate classes, but if it takes more than 3 turns, then they'll have to reload and take a pistol shot instead. Because we detonated the Claymore with the rocket, our Reaper can also take a shot here. She's also pretty accurate, thankfully. We don't want Julian damaging the Spark, so we'll give them an aid protocol. She actually has threat assessment, but our Spark is out of ammo. "47 damage looks good, but we used all of our resources on the first round, so the next few are going to be a lot less damage." In this case, Julian isn't actually that threatening. It's the self-destruct mechs that will probably cause you to lose soldiers.
No one goes home.
Advent forces sighted.
Julian tends to focus on Shen and the Spark. Shen is fine, because we can just heal her and still take an action.
Even compared to the tower. Still, once I neutralize the Spark, complete the transfer, and taste...
Reapers are also great for this mission because they can use remote start on the generators. They normally do 16 damage, but the radius is usually too small to hit anything. With remote start, this goes up to a massive 32 damage and you can actually catch Julian with it fairly reliably.
Negative damage!
Reload in progress.
We could use capacitor discharge here, but we won't kill Julian with it, and we might be able to also get one of the mechs with it next turn.
Missed the target. Reloading.
Prior to inhabiting this body, I ordered every remaining unit in the facility to this position. Just thought you should know that.
Spark unit under fire.
It might actually be better to put Shen in one of the high cover positions on the ground, just to bait Julian into going for her instead of the Spark.
Hostiles targeting my position.
I should have taken a more hands-on approach sooner.
Julian's close enough now to use remote start, but we'll see how much damage we can do without it first.
Missed the target.
Preparing to re-engage. Targeting error.
It's killing time. We're green to go.
Julian's still got 28 HP, and Shen's capacitor discharge only does 11 to 14 damage, so we'll just use remote start to finish the fight.
Watch closely.
Defensive systems just shut down across the entire facility. Well done, Shen.
Another success beyond all expectations. I'm continually impressed, Commander.
To close out, let's run through some what-if scenarios. Let's start with the obvious one. What if you didn't have remote start at the end there? You'd be in a pretty difficult spot. You'd have to move all your units off the roof and then use capacitor discharge to deal with the self-destruct mechs. You'd also have to make sure no one was in worse cover than Shen, otherwise Julian might start taking shots at them instead. When the mechs start showing up, you could also try to take control of one of them with Haywire Protocol and use it as a distraction, like we did during the Holdout event. You'd still have to risk the 77% chance failing though. Next up, what if you started with the skirmishers instead? Skirmishers wouldn't be too bad on this mission. Shooting twice for 6 to 8 damage with Marauder would help during the Holdout and Julian fights, and the grapple would help cover ground during the escape event. By sergeant rank, you'd have access to Reflex, Total Combat, Wrath, and Zero In. The only one of these that could be helpful is Wrath. You could use it to get a guaranteed 4 damage on Julian and then grapple back up to cover to continue shooting. It's only 1 extra point of damage over your bullpup's minimum of 3 though. Okay, well what if you had a Templar then instead? Templars would be a bit awkward. Rend does 6 to 7 damage at focus level 2, which is great, but a lot of the enemies you're fighting will be primed for self-destruct. You'd have to get lucky and get Fortress early. And Volt doesn't even work on robotic enemies, so you'd be limited to your auto pistol for ranged attacks. As for your other abilities, by Sergeant you'd have Parry, Aftershock, Amplify, Overcharge, Pillar, and Stun Strike. Parry is the obvious choice here. You could use it to distract one of the mechs, but if you're exposed then the others might take shots at you instead of priming. And since Julian always takes 2 shots, it would be too risky to use it during his fight. Aside from that, you could try using Amplify. With Shen's attacks, it could end up doing an extra 3 to 4 damage, which is not insignificant. If you didn't have Overcharge or didn't get lucky though, you'd be losing a point of damage on your Rend attacks. And finally, what if you didn't bring any faction heroes? In that case, you'd just have to bring whatever soldiers you could. Ideally a Shredder Grenadier or Sharpshooter for the Julian fight. You could bring a specialist with combat protocol, but that's only 4 to 5 guaranteed damage and you only get 2 charges for it. Aid protocol also wouldn't do much other than protecting your spark for another turn during the Julian fight. So with all that said, would I recommend doing early Lost Towers? I think with a Reaper it can be manageable, but there's still a decent chance of taking injuries, and some of your best soldiers will be shaken for a couple of weeks either way. Getting the spark early is nice, but unless you're quite lucky, they'll probably get at least a little damaged, so they'll be even more fragile for the next couple of weeks. All that being said, it's a totally viable option. You can go early to try and get the spark as soon as possible. You could wait and go in with magnetic weapons and blue screen rounds, or you could avoid the risks by spending the resources with integrated. It just depends what you feel like for that playthrough.